this week, a smorgasbord of delights, as well as an oak beauty moth. We are going to hear about the Rum Story, what's going on at the Rum Story in Whitehaven, which is a museum that's been there for quite some time, but is about to undergo quite a big redevelopment. And Katie Haig is going to tell us all about it. She's in London at the moment because she's actually looking at museums and galleries and nice things in London to inspire her, no doubt, to make great things happen at the Rum Story. So we're going to hear from Katie about what's going on at the Rum Story. Dave Camlin, who has just joined us. Hello, Dave. He's got a lovely painting. Is that what picture is that behind you, Dave?
It's a Percy Kelly.
I thought it must be. There's a beautiful Percy Kelly and Dave Camlin.
It's not an original.
Dave's involved in all sorts of musical things, as you probably know, across Cumbria and beyond. And there's a great project going on in Workington with a trio called Heartwood, and we're going to hear about that and watch a little bit of film to find out about that project as well. And then the lovely Charlie Whinney, who we last met at the Sill in Northumberland, where Charlie is involved in a project with Nick Greenhall. Greenland is a place on Hadrian's Wall. Greenhall, where the Sycamore Gap art response to the Sycamore Gap tragedy. Charlie and Nick are both involved in that, and Charlie is also involved in a fantastic looking talk that's coming up, and it's going to tell us all about steam bending with wood, amongst many other things. We've got some beautiful slides to show that art underway. So we're going to talk to Charlie as well, and then I'm going to show you a tiny clip of this month's podcast as well. I've been to the Shipping Brow Gallery in Maryport, and Jim Osborne, who's the current artist in residence, and Dolly and Brian, who run the Shipping Brow, did a lovely interview, and I put that out a couple of days ago, and I've got a little clip of Jim as well. So we'll look at that towards the end of the call as well. So that is the plan for this morning, the smorgasbord of cultural and artistic delights taking place across Cumbria. I went to Workington Reds last Saturday to watch Workington Reds lose 1-0 against FC United. I hadn't been to Borough Park for about 15 years. About 1,000, probably the biggest cultural experience going on in Cumbria last Saturday was at Workington Reds. And it was a wonderful time. And if you like football, go to Workington Reds. They're about to redevelop the stadium. They've got a new stadium coming in Workington. It was great. Anyway, enough of blathering from me. Jonathan, nice to see you. Rachel, nice to see you. Let's cross to some salubrious cafe in London where Katie Haig is standing by to tell us all about the Rum Story, her role in it, and what's going on there at the moment and over the next 12 months or so. So, Katie, take it away. Tell us what's going on at the Rum Story, and perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself as well.
Thank you, Tom. Morning, lovely to meet you all. My name's Katie Haig. I've been envious of this group actually for quite a few years. I've been working in national organisations. I used to run a charity called Good Vibrations, which was national, and it used gamelan music, worked with people in the community and in prisons. And I always wanted, in a way, to be able to delve more into one particular local community and be part of a network like this. So this is a pleasure. So just a quick bit about my background. I'm actually a teacher. I'm a musician. I love painting as well. At the moment, I'm the project manager working for the Rum Story, working with Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners and Anti-Racist Cumbria on a wonderful project called Rum Story Reimagined Project. And I'm really pleased to be able to talk to you about that today. I'll give you a bit of background to the project, and then I want to sort of pose some questions to you, things that I hope you might be interested in and can possibly help with. So the project, the Rum Story Reimagined, it's a partnership project between Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners and Anti-Racist Cumbria, and it's made possible by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. It's in 2 phases. This bit this year, phase 1, has about £250,000. So it's an ambitious project to be delivered over the first year, and then it will have longer term actions and outcomes over the next 5 years as well. So just a bit of background in case any of you haven't been to the Rum Story already in Whitehaven. Does anyone know it? Has anyone been? Hands up if you've been to the Rum Story. Well, that's good. I can't see everyone. I can see half the screen, half the people, but that's fantastic. So just in case you don't know it so well, it's a visitor attraction. It's not actually a sort of an accredited museum, and it tells the story of the Jefferson family business, and that involves the rum and the shipping and trading and enslavement of African people. And it sits alongside this wider history of Whitehaven, which is a town with a really impressive shipbuilding past. And that was made possible by wealth that's generated from mining that was invested into the docks in the 1700s. So the town was one of the most important UK ports, which lots of people don't know, and you might not imagine it from what it's like now. So this wealth allowed some people in Whitehaven, including the Jefferson family, to generate wealth. And that was through the involvement in the trading of enslaved African people. So the Rum Story visitor attraction tells that story, that history. It was put in place about 25 years ago, around about the millennium. And so we've realised there's a need for this project to modernise the Rum Story and to make sure it tells a more complete story, a complete history that's more engaging and thought-provoking for a wider group of people. So that's the overall aim of the project. And I suppose the vision of it is we hope that the Rum Story will become a world-class visitor attraction that puts Whitehaven firmly on the UK heritage map. So some of the sort of sub-aims of the project, and it is ambitious, there are lots of things it wants to achieve, not all necessarily this year, but working on delivering these, particularly over the next 5 years. We want to increase visitors to the Rum Story and to the local area, to Whitehaven and around. We want to educate people, make them curious and get them thinking. We want to help people learn from the past and see how the past links to the present. We want to tell the story, the Rum Story, from all points of view, to give a more complete, true history and to sort of bring to centre stage some of the more hidden perspectives that haven't been told so much in the past. We want to make it more modern, more accessible, creative, sensory, innovative. We want to entice people from all walks of life to come back again. It's about preserving our heritage, our local heritage, and sharing ownership of that heritage with the local community. And possibly, let's see, the most ambitious is about generating wider benefits to the local community, social, economic, health benefits, etc. to people. Sorry, was there a question there? So that's a kind of dive down, first of all, into the project, what we're aiming. Before I sort of say, well, why am I speaking to you as a group of creatives and artists? I'll just tell you a bit more about the approach we're taking on this phase 1 of the project, which I'm delivering as project manager. We're doing this all with an anti-racist lens, because of the history and because this is an important thing to do nowadays as well, to become anti-racist. We recognise that museums and the heritage sector have historically given more power and representation to white people as opposed to black and brown people, and we're addressing the balance through this project. We're also doing this project with an anti-oppression lens. So again, recognising that museums have historically given more power and representation to wealthier, more privileged people in society. So we want to make sure that this reimagination project is led by the local community, including people who might not usually access museums or visit heritage attractions, so more marginalised groups within the community too. I and people within the project, and as the project develops, we're going to use very purposeful terminology and try and explain why we're using that terminology with the groups we're working with. So, for example, rather than terms like an enslaved person within the attraction, we would say something like an enslaved person rather than saying slave, so that we're making sure people are thinking of these people as human beings rather than objects. And as well, terms like saying, I said black, brown, white. So by that terminology, by black, I'm meaning people of African heritage, which includes Afro-Caribbean heritage. By brown, we're intending that to mean people of South Asian community or East Asian people, and First Nation people from places like Australia, New Zealand, the Pacific Islands, etc. But we know that not everyone might self-identify with those terms, but these are kind of more commonly used and ways that people are self-identifying at the moment. And we want to just start a conversation about this too. We want to just see, this is important as well, the language, how we talk about it. In terms of the approach, 2025 is going to be about me consulting and engaging with all sorts of people about how to shape this project and to achieve the aims. It's going to be people from Whitehaven, it's going to be people from Cumbria, from the country, from UK, from international. And it's going to be people who live and work here, people who are visitors or potential visitors to the rum story. It's going to be experts on things from rum to Whitehaven, to the enslavement of African people, to anti-oppression, experts on the arts, learning, heritage, curation, and experts on things like accessibility, sustainability, and tourism. And when I say experts, we don't mean that in a very kind of sort of predefined sense of as only professional people working in this context. It can also be people with lived experience, which makes them have a huge expertise in those areas. So there will probably be lots of people getting involved in the project who've got a real crossover of expertise and maybe things they didn't even realise they were experts in if they talk to us. We'll be working with individuals, businesses, community organisations, cultural and creative organisations, schools, universities, museums, government, etc. Lots and lots of people to find out how do we achieve these ambitious aims on the project. So the goals for end of this year, beginning of 2026, is I create a recommendations and feasibility report out of all the feedback that we get from speaking to all these people. We have an evaluation as well, an independent evaluation done of the project to see what impact it's had. And we will have an initial reinterpretation of the rum story attraction, the exhibition, by this time next year. So that will be changes that we can do with the budget and the funding we've got now. Things that address any harm, anything that's triggering that the exhibition is currently doing, things that make it more accessible and engaging, etc. Things that we can do short term with the budget we've got. And then over the next 5 years, so by 2020, the project, well, phase 2 will all be about embedding the recommendations of this report and making any further changes to the rum story that we want to make, but need more time, money, resource and expertise. So that's what will be happening in terms of those sort of tangible changes. So why am I talking to you today? What's it got to do with the arts and culture? So we want to work with artists and creatives this year, well, not just this year, long term, but starting off this year, to support the consultation and the engagement approach. And I think in terms of timescales, there'll be a real focus on that from late spring to late autumn. There's a budget of about, it's not finalised at the moment, about £9,000 to use the arts, culture, creative elements to develop, to do this piece of work. And what we're looking for is some creative responses to themes that are emerging through the Rum Story Reimagined project, through the rum story attraction itself, so linked to the themes, the story and the history that it talks about. So that might be to do with rum, to do with shipping, to do with Whitehaven itself. And creative responses to our local history, our past and our present, the journey, and working with the local community. So we really want to commission artists and creatives to come up with creative responses that they can deliver working with the local community to help us achieve the aims and respond to these things. This is particularly people locally, people for whom this is part of their heritage, they've got connections to history, but it also could be working with artists further afield as well. And ideally, the idea is that we will have some lasting legacies and creative lasting works of arts, whether they're installations, music, poetry, theatre, sculpture. I don't know what they look like. That's up to the people themselves who have created them with community. That we can exhibit permanently in the Rum Story, and people can engage with, and it can get them thinking, and probably thinking about the present day as well in relation to these works of art. So I'm here today to plant the seed with you as artists, creative people, cultural organisations, hoping that you might be some of the people who respond to this, to put in expressions of interest to the brief when we put it out in the next few months. So this is really to sort of get ideas flowing, give you a chance to ask any questions. Maybe you could share this opportunity with your networks as well if you think it sounds interesting when we put out the brief. But it's also to invite you generally to participate in the consultation and in the engagement that's happening over this year as people with an interest in the area, whether you want to do a creative response or not. And I suppose lastly, my ask to you is I really would love it at this stage before the brief's got out, as we're still moulding this project. If you can help me shape how we do this best, how I communicate this opportunity, what this brief looks like, because you might have some really good ideas about things that are frustrating when you put in expressions of interest, or things that you think are great that I might not think about, I might be blinking about. So it would be fantastic if you could do that. I hope that's enough of an overview. Tom, maybe there might be questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Katie. And I love your kind of warm, open, embracing approach to the people on this call and to the wider sector as well. That's a really nice way of doing it. So if anyone's got any questions or any observations they want to make, then just stick your hand up or stick them in the chat. I suppose let me ask you, Katie, you know, I saw the announcement on social media of the project a few weeks ago. And you know, there was there's been an interesting reaction to the ideas of what you're talking about. Tell me how you've you know, did you expect, what sort of reaction did you expect? What sort of reaction did you get? How do you kind of cope with that? Not everyone's for this, are they? I suppose if I'm going to cut to the quick.
No, it's a controversial project, or it has the potential to be controversial. And I think I would say it was expected from everyone involved in the project that we would get some reactions like this. So it wasn't shocking. In some ways, so sorry, I'm not sure, does everyone sort of understand everyone appreciate why it might be controversial? What were some of the comments? Tom, maybe you could just sort of give a sense of that a bit.
Well, I suppose some people think it's a waste of money. Some people think slavery is the past, and why should we worry about that now in a museum situation when we could be spending the money on adult social care, schools, hospitals, blah, blah, blah. Is that a rough summary?
Yeah, no, that's very good. I mean, I think in the positives of some of the negative responses coming is we want to hear all perspectives and all views, because this project, the Rum Story, is part of this community. This is the setting we're in. This is what we're working with. And we want to bring people with us. We want to work with the community and people who have different views, because it hopefully will make it a richer project that will consider more perspectives in what the actual resulting attraction is. But also, I think, generally, when you're dealing with anti-racism, often there is quite a lot of denial by white people that there is such a thing as white privilege, or that it is still a problem. And that is part of the conversation. That is part of what the education piece is about. And so we really want to work with the local community to be able to start a conversation about that. But also, I think lots of what's come out in some of the responses to like Cumbria crack and reports on it and things are assumptions that certain things will be done, that it will only be one agenda. We will only tell a different story and one side of the story, and it will make out white people in Whitehaven to be the bad guys. And I very much don't think that's the case. I think we can tell a whole range of stories. We can see we can work with people to try and help them to see the nuance of this history, to see the elements that were more negative, the more positive elements. People can hold. So Jefferson, for example, the Jefferson family business, we can hold positive facts about what the Jeffersons did in Whitehaven at the same time as recognising there were negative aspects. For example, they owned like African enslaved people. We can hold those two facts. And I think it just allows people to have really honest conversations, which is a good thing.
Great. Okay, thank you. Kate Parry's got her hand up.
I wanted to say pretty much exactly, in fact, what you said, that the reaction locally has been fascinating and not at all surprising. I've done quite a bit of work in museums over the last year on the subject of anti-racism, and really what kind of emerged on Cumbria Crack in particular, but that's the one that I've seen. I'm sure there are other channels.
For those who don't know, Cumbria Crack is an online Facebook, usually, way of churning out news stories. So that's what Cumbria Crack is.
It just shows why it's needed, in a nutshell, doesn't it? Because there is so little understanding of why this is even happening, and it's just so alarming, and also so urgent as a result. But also what I noticed was quite a lot of kickback against people who were saying the sorts of things that I found so alarming. There was quite a lot of positivity in there as well. So that I think there's hope. But I'm obviously fascinated to see what happens next, and very happy to play a part.
Okay, thank you, Kate. Kevin, I think, did you have your hand up? Yeah, just come off mute, Kevin, and tell us your thoughts. You'll just need to come off mute, Kevin, if you can.
While Kevin's doing that, just flag up that Jonathan's mentioned a project the Duddon Valley Local History Group have got coming up in November about slavery in Cumbria. So I'm sure that might be a feature on one of these calls closer to the time.
Yeah. Kevin, can you come off mute? I'm not sure that I can unmute Kevin for
No,
him.
I don't think I can do that for him.
Dave, in the meantime, Dave Camlin's got his hand up. Dave.
I think it sounds great, Katie. I mean, I think it's divisiveness aside. I think it sounds like a great project, and I think that it'll be really good to find ways for it to help people connect to kind of history and heritage as well, and some of those stories, and for me in particular to do with the sea. I kind of recently discovered my great grandfather, who kind of left Ireland and settled in West Cumbria at the steelworks, actually was kind of part of the triangular trade route. He left Ireland to go to Angola before coming back to West Cumbria. So I'm sure that, and there's loads of stories, I'm sure, that where people have got those kind of connections. So there's probably ways of blurring some of this as well. Everybody local will have histories that are kind of tangled up in the sea, in immigration, in all of those kind of things. Most of the community in West Cumbria originally are immigrants, because there wasn't very many people living here until it started to be industrially settled. But all of that's like a little bit in the past. And then you got people. As soon as you was talking, I was thinking of the I don't know if presumably you've come across the John Pagan White song from the 18th century, where he kind of mythologizes a sinking of a slave ship on the Giltstone Rock just outside.
I don't know that. I'll make a note now.
Oh no, it's great. I mean, it's not true, but it's a Whitehaven man writing a song in the 1800s, 19th century about like Whitehaven's slave history by mythologizing a shipwreck on the Giltstone Rock outside, just off Harrington. So I think and there's probably loads like that. If you don't need to scratch much underneath the surface to get past the culture wars and just find people's genuine connections to the sea and what it's meant for us as a community over time.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff. Kevin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's very interesting, this project, to me, because it's kind of opportune at the moment, because on Monday I'm meeting someone who's come from New York, and she's doing a PhD on the Brixton Art Gallery. And can you hear me? And she is doing a lot of research on the black diaspora from Africa because she's from the Caribbean, her family. And so as an originator of the Brixton Festival and the Brixton Art Gallery, I have a lot of archive material which is coming to see. And hearing Katie talking about the project in Whitehaven would be a good way of connecting on a project that is, in a way, good for me, because I live in a very rural, isolated world, if you like. So to have things going on that's not far away, obviously in Whitehaven, I live near Keswick, is very good in terms of developing ideas. And I think what made me, I was thinking a lot about, at the time she was speaking about John Paul Jones in Whitehaven and his history, which is incredible history of a human being. And it would be one of the things that bothers me in a way is the title, The Rum Story, because I feel like it's almost got like a Disney style of theme park thing about it. I've been there, but it's been some years ago. And it's quite nice to know that things are moving in a direction that they should be moving in. And it does connect with the like the Beacon Museum and the sculptures that Colin Telfer did, I think is the surname, of John Paul Jones and his relationship with Whitehaven,
Okay,
which
Kevin.
is remarkable. Okay,
Thank you for that.
The only thing, can I ask, is how do I get in touch with Kate?
I think Katie
I
will
was
put her
just about to
contacts.
say that in response. Yes. Shall I put it in the chat? Is that the best thing
But
to
put them
do?
into chat in a second when we finish, Katie. That'll be great.
Okay,
And
thank
Kevin,
you.
you can pick
Great.
it up from
Thank
chat
you,
if you can find chat there. I think so. I'd like Katie, and Deanne's on this call as well. Deanne, is Deanne your boss, Katie? Is she your boss? She is. So
She's
she's
terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
What do you call yourself, Deanne, these days? What's your title?
What?
Yeah, you like
quite a lot of things, most of them not repeatable in public.
Are you a Harbour Master Commissioner or something?
No, CEO of Whitehaven Harbour Commissioners.
CEO of okay, right. So I'd like to stay in touch with this project because it sounds like it's on a bit of a slow burn, which is great in itself. The fact that you've got time to take a step back, do all this consultation, and I think there'll be a real appetite from this group and others to engage and also to follow your progress as well. Not an easy project, I wouldn't thought to do. So well done to you both for doing it and others that are getting involved in doing it. But it'd be fascinating to see where you get to and what a great addition to the Cumbrian cultural offer it will no doubt become, in time for people to think about our history in a slightly different way to perhaps they do at the moment, and to learn, to learn and discuss these things as well. So thank you very much for telling us about it this morning, Katie. If you can pop your details into chat, it's going to be really interesting to follow it over the next months and years. So good luck with it, and stay in touch. Thank you very much indeed. Right, let's switch. Let's stay on the West Coast because Dave Camlin is involved in a really interesting project, as ever, to do with music. And we've got a bit of film we're going to show as well. But Dave, do you want to kick off and tell us what's going on? It's quite soon, isn't it?
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, no, it's just a bit of a plug for we've got a couple of events happening next Saturday in Workington. It'd be just great to drum up a bit of support for. So I sing with a quartet called Mouthful, which is like a cappella group. They're all based in the northeast. Obviously, I'm based in West Cumbria, and we decided to take a little bit of a punt on bringing touring harmony artists up to the north of England. So we've got a three-piece group from the United States, Heartwood, who are on tour in the UK, and we've got them coming to Gosford Civic Theatre over in the northeast next Wednesday, and then St Michael's Church in Workington on Saturday. And so like Gosford Civic Theatre's selling really well, but the next Saturday we could just do with getting the word out a bit more. So this is Saturday the 15th. So yeah, Heartwood Trio are a really fantastic trio of folky musicians, sing really lovely three-part harmony, but also use instruments and things. But it's the reason I thought it might be of interest to people in CACN is because it's just trying to develop audiences. I think what we're trying to do is we're testing something out in terms of seeing whether there's a model that we can work that can bring touring artists who are in the UK to West Cumbria. So it'd be just great if if people think they might be interested, or if they're connected with choirs or singing groups or know people that sing. Heartwood are going to do a workshop in St Michael's on the Saturday afternoon, 1:30 till 4:30, and then there'll be an evening concert with Heartwood and Mouthful and some of my choirs. So it'll be a really lovely evening. And I think Chris has got a little snippet of Heartwood that he can share just to give people a taste of who they are.
I'll attempt to do that now.
Chris has put a link into chat as well.
I let go, I roll into the sea. Turn me into something new. I am and I will be. These polished stones I sit upon have weathered every storm. Rough and edges now are gone into another form.
That might be enough, Chris.
Oh,
Enough for people to get an idea. It's slightly, the audio is slightly breaking up at my end as well. I'm sure it might be for other people as well. Yeah, but just to give a sense of what that is. So if people know anybody, or if you're connected with choirs or singing groups or friends, or just fancy coming along, it'd be just great to get the word out. And what we're hoping longer term is to be able to develop this as an idea and build up an audience for kind of vocal music in West Cumbria as well as what we're doing in the Northeast. Just as a way of increasing the cultural offer. There's a Facebook page as well if people want to follow it on there. Put that in the link. And
how did you come across them, David, in the first place? How did you come across them?
Well, they got in touch. It was through the kind of the choirs network, really. So it was through Ali Burns, who's a fantastic composer and singer based up in Edinburgh. And I think Ali had originally had got wind of them coming over, so they're up in Moniaive actually on the 13th and 14th, and then they were looking, while they're up in this part of the world, they were looking for other places to be. So Ali had suggested they get in touch with me, and they got in touch directly. So yeah, it was just thinking it's a cost-effective way of getting international touring artists into the area. If we can,
yeah, and it's always great to see them in sort of small intimate venues like churches or village halls as well.
I see. I went to Chester the other week to see Jake Xerxes Fussell, who's like one of my all-time heroes, and he was playing in this tiny little church, 150 people in it, and the promoter there is basically just promoting American artists on tour in the UK, and it was just like an amazing opportunity to see fantastic musicianship in a really intimate setting. So that's kind of what we're hoping for, to be able to repeat that kind of idea but in West Cumbria.
Great. Okay, lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Dave. I saw Chris Drever, who's a Scottish folk singer. I saw him up front at Gallery last weekend. It was just tremendous. He's like an international repute, I would suggest, these days. He writes beautiful songs, and he was playing with a fiddler. And there is something about small venues and seeing people at the top of their game doing great stuff. So Dave, thank you for that. And of course, Cumberlandia is in July.
Hey, Linda, let's get a plug in for that as well. We've got tickets are on sale for Cumberlandia, and it's going to be a big. I'll put the link in the website as well for that. So that's just on the outskirts of Workington at Rivendell, which for those of you that don't know it is this beautiful private festival site that Joanne and Alwyn Braniff have developed over the last 10 years. And we've got some great headline names, including Sam Lee and Dancer Dub and Amy Thatcher's new project called Revolver, as well as loads of homegrown talent and lots of participation opportunities and celebrations of everyday creativity. It's going to be lovely.
Great. So I think that's the last weekend in July for those that are
It
interested.
is. Yeah.
I went last year, had a great time. Lovely stuff. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for sharing that with us, and good luck with that a week on Saturday in Workington. Right, it's 10 past 10, so it's now time to talk steam bending. Wooden steam bending, I'm not quite even sure how to say it. But Nick Greenall and Charlie Whinney in particular is the artist behind this project and this talk that's taking place quite soon. So Charlie, let me hand over to you. Chris has got some slides ready for you when you're ready for them as well. Tell us about what's going on and how you got interested in it as well.
Okay, Nick has been running Windermere Science Festival for 3 or 4 years now, and I've kind of got roped into helping. We do a cardboard boat making exercise where we get real actual children and with their families, they make life-size cardboard boats, and then we put reusable plastic over them and we float them out onto Lake Windermere, and so we haven't lost any children yet. It's fine. And the idea with the overall idea of the festival is basically to engage young people into science in Windermere, in Cumbria, and using creativity very much as a tool in order to achieve that. Basically, Nick and I are both like massive science geeks and love science a lot. We have very boring conversations, and the idea is to make it not boring and engage with the public. Is it on Wednesday next week? I'm doing something completely new. Honestly, I've never actually been as nervous as I've done some really big projects, and this, I don't know why, it's not even going to be a massive show, but I'm just like, I think because it's something new. Basically, I'm doing an hour and a half where I'm basically explaining using nothing kind of beyond kind of like GCSE standard and like physics or biology. I'm going to be basically explaining how and why trees are like they are, and also kind of putting into context like how humans fit into that narrative. So we're looking at evolution, and we're also looking at kind of like the thermodynamics of how ecosystems work. And again, it's like, it sounds complicated, but actually, when you think of it from first principles, it's like a really nice story. And then asking some really deep questions about like what right do humans have to just use the world around us? Like what is our place? Like, how does it work? And very much framing things within the narrative of kind of co-evolution, and seeing like this whole kind of conversation of like humans and non-humans, just seeing this as we're just an animal like any other. But we are creative. We have a we can basically take information which a lot of life forms can just develop through genetics, and we actually do it through imagination and writing things down. We can kind of fast forward that process. So basically, it's introducing some like quite like subtle and weird ideas, but doing it in the medium of woodwork. This is why I'm nervous, because it's like it's quite a weird thing to do. Do you want to just show some slides?
Yeah, we'll pull the pictures up and then talk us through what we're looking at, where we see what we're going to see, because there's some beautiful artwork that's created out of these techniques. So just talk us through. We are going to be using some past projects just as kind of prompts for this. So this is a giant piece of DNA. This is like a 36 meter. It's actually 4 meters high, which is at the Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge. I'm going to be using this piece as a prompt to explain about like DNA and how cells work, like, and how information is passed on in them as a kind of basic unit for how life is, basically. Next slide, Chris, please. And this is a detail of this one.
Next slide, please. This is a close-up of a piece that I made. It's actually one of my first like big commissions, and it's actually a 4-meter sphere, which you can climb inside and it can roll it around. But it's also like when I made it, I was very much thinking about it as my first piece I was going to make. So I wanted to almost start at the beginning of the life, so it kind of encapsulates the kind of cell having an inside and outside. And I can explain that too. And then next slide, please. And then explaining about how like all life is kind of reliant on other life. So this kind of co-evolution, how nothing can exist alone. If you just like eat your food and then let it out into the environment, then you're just surrounded by your own poo, basically. And so we've got some paintings to illustrate it. So this is one of the pieces of work I'm going to be. It's just showing like two things together, basically. But the idea is if you have a mix of life, then you get a cycle working. This is the basics of how an ecosystem is. And next slide, please. And so with the narrative of life, I'm also using, this is another piece. It's based on a piece of plankton. It's like a 3-meter sphere, which you can also climb inside and roll around in. This is quite an old piece, but I thought it was a nice way of illustrating kind of evolution, how like life basically can change by finding niches. Like if there's if there's some waste or something left over from something else, that's an opportunity, and things kind of develop. Next slide, please. And then getting on to like the basics of like how and why wood is like it is. So it's basically an hour and a half of like how do trees exist, and where do we fit into it. On this one, I'm going to be using this and also a painting as well, explaining like plant cell walls. Here's cellulose, which is a molecule which is made out of the units of, so you get photosynthesis makes glucose. If you stick them together, you get a curly welly molecule, which is a bit like the curly welly bits of wood here, which basically like sticking next to each other and curling around each other, and that's the cellulose inside the cell walls. And wood is 50% cellulose. So paper is 100%. It's like a tensile material. And so I can sort of show a kind of a plant cell. Next, please. And then at the very end of the show, we're going to be bending a giant piece of wood as well. So I think I've got 5 like live bits of steam bending we're going to do at the same time. And there's going to be some audience participation. We're going to have some like, will it break? People have to bet whether the wood's going to break or not, but based on basic knowledge they've just got. And also I've made a jig, which I'm actually finishing it today, where we're going to pit different species of wood against each other, see which one's stronger, and you can actually understand something about the tree by kind of exploring it in a kind of scientific way. It's like a scientific experiment which we're going to do, which the audience are going to participate in. And then is actually a slightly different jig, but it's the same thing as wood. It's even tighter bend we're going to do. This is a 160 mil like giant beam. Which is actually going to be used as part of the seating for our Sycamore Gap Commission. But I thought I would do one of the bends in the show, and again, it's going to be 2 audience members who are going to operate the turtle winches, which you can see here, and then and it's basically really thinking about like what wood is and how we use it and why, and is it okay and when is it not okay, and like really thinking about operating in a process of exchange rather than just taking when you're thinking about materials. And at the end, there's going to be a surprise gift, which Nick, am I allowed to say what it is? Is he still there? He might.
Yes. I'm still here. Yeah, I'm actually waiting for a delivery of 120 oak saplings. So we're hoping to give everyone an oak tree to take away and plant after the end of the show.
So anyway, so that's basically it. So I think maybe, are we doing a plug? I think we might be, but also I think going forward with the festival, we're basically like fairly obsessed about this kind of journey of like engaging with science and creativity.
Yeah.
So if there's anyone listening, there's any ideas for future years, talk to Nick.
What are you nervous about, Charlie? What are you worried about?
So that was the most coherent version I've just done.
So basically, it's that's over an hour and a half, is it?
No, yeah, no, it is. It's so I've been teaching this to students and young people and doing sessions for about 20 years. But last year, I went and did a kind of I went and helped in the same show, the same slot at the old Laundry Theatre. I did like 20 minutes, and that was really nice. But I've now got to sit. It's like I think if you're a performer, this is like bread and butter. But I'm not. I'm a woodworker, so I'm just like.
Let people. I would. Lots of pauses. Let people have time to think about it. I love the fact that you've got some interactivity going on as well, by the sound of things.
Yeah.
To give you a flavour of the reaction, Charlie, in chat, people are saying fantastic work, beautiful work. Wow, I find these so beautiful. You spoke beautifully, Charlie. Fascinating work. Stunning, and what a great surprise gift. Totally fascinating. So everyone thinks what you're doing is amazing. So feel the love.
Thank you so much. I feel very loved. Thank you very much. This is a lovely group. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, it should be fine. I kind of feel like as long as you actually believe in what you're saying, I think as long as you don't bullshit the audience, then it'll be fine. And
I think you're absolutely right. Authentic, if it comes from your heart, it's clear that you mean what you say. I can still remember at the age of 9, my first woodworking lesson at school. I made a toast rack, and I still got the toast rack, and it was the first star. So every week, kind of teachers gave out little stars on a chart if you did a good piece of work. And I can still remember my woodworking teacher, Mr. Polden. I did a kind of decent saw across a piece of wood to cut it into the right size. And that whole smell of the woodworking space. And I got a star. It's my first star I ever got at that school, was for my bit of woodwork. And it stayed with me about how wood is fantastic to work with, and deeply satisfying to work with as well. And you obviously have a very special relationship with all the different types of wood that you work with, Charlie.
Yeah, I really enjoy that, and part of the motivation for me to carry on doing the work is the kind of narrative idea, where as a craftsperson, you're coming at the very end of a long story. So that tree was a living thing, and and even like as you work in the wood, like even that piece of wood is different ages as well. You can like almost look back in time as you look in a piece of wood, and it sounds really kind of it sounds like quite a cheesy thing to say, but that's honestly how I view it, and it's part of the kind of joy and the motivation to actually walk up the lane, go to the workshop even when it's cold.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, it's beautiful stuff, and what you're doing at Sycamore Gap looks really interesting as well. Thank you very much for telling us about it, Charlie. Great images as well. Great work. We're very lucky to have you in our county. And Nick, well done. I'm sure you're the man behind organising a lot of this as well. I hope your saplings arrive on time. And I hope it's a really good session. And the tickets and the link are there in chat if you fancy going along to that. And isn't there a special, can't people from CACN get a bit of a discount as well, Nick? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So if you follow the link, there's an under 16 price. So not only do you magically de-age, you get it for £7 instead of 10, and a free tree.
Blimey, that's not a bad offer. Okay. And that was in the newsletter this week as well. And there's a link there if you fancy picking it up there. Lovely stuff. Right, I'm just going to share a tiny clip with you now. Thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you very much, Nick. This is an artist called Jim Osborne, who is the current artist in residence at Shipping Brow Gallery in Maryport. And here he is. Except I'm going to stop that so that you can actually hear what he's got to say.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm the resident artist currently at Shipping Brow Gallery, and I'm in my studio currently painting this beautiful trawler that has been appearing in the harbour at the moment. I've just done a podcast with Tom Spate, and it's been about my experience being in Maryport, being in the gallery, what makes the gallery tick. So go check it out.
There he is. So have a listen to the podcast if you fancy finding out a bit more about Jim, how he ended up in Maryport. He's from Southampton, and also how Dolly and Brian got Shipping Brow Gallery. If you've not been, it's the most amazingly bright blue building on the harbour side at Maryport. It's a beautiful place, and a new exhibition has just opened for the whole of March. Celia Burbush, Jim Osborne, and Jack Tatum something. Who's
Audrey Tatum.
What is it?
Jack Fordry Tatum.
Do you know what? I asked Jack, I said to him, how do you want me to call it? It's such a complicated story as to how he ended up with that surname as well. Anyway, he runs the Marketplace Print Studio in Cockermouth. And the three of them have got a beautiful temporary exhibition downstairs, and then upstairs, lots of William Mitchell's and Percy Kelly's are on permanent display there. So if you get a chance to go and have a look at that, do, and listen to the podcast, me chatting to them all. I think we're done. It's 10:26. Next week, we are going to hear from Stefan Escreet, who has been running Ragged Edge Productions for 10 years. And it's a bit of a 10-year look back on how do you keep a production company going for 10 years and still keep your head above water and make a living. So Stefan's going to spill all his secrets next week. And also Faye Morrissey from the Armit, which is recently reopened for the summer season. Some really interesting stuff going on at the Armit in Ambleside. And Faye's going to come and tell us about what's going on there as well. Dave says, sorry, I should have said, use CACN 20 in the Eventbrite checkout for 20% off Heartwood tickets. You see, we drive great deals with arts and cultural communities across Cumbria. That's the power of CACN. So have a look at that link and use CACN 20 in the Eventbrite checkout for that as well. Thank you very much to Katie, who's had to slip away, and to Dave, and to Charlie and Nick for telling us what's going on in Cumbria. Really good stuff this morning, really interesting, wide range of stuff. Hope you have a nice weekend. As I said, in Cumbria, the forecast is set fair, so it should be nice. Good to see you all, and see you all again sometime soon.